that champion feel fairly terrifying on the other side. Annie also being let through the draft currently as well. There's a chance that Haichao picks that up. But if you don't pick it up here from LGD, there's a chance that you let through Annie, Cassante, which were two of the champions which JDG really used to great effect around both their championship run in the LPL and then their tournament at MSI as well. Nico also on the table though, so Haichao going to pick up another game of that.
It's there and it's strong. Pick it. You have some really good wombo
Wow,
combo here with the Wukong as well.
You have such a way with words and logic.
Yeah, hey, I know, you know, I'm a play-by-play for a reason. All right.
So what's the saying again? Those that can't play cast, those that can't cast play.
Awkward turtle. Anyways, another awkward turtle is the fact that we were just highlighting it, but guess who gets their duo? It's the lovers in the bot lane, Ruler and Mystic.
Yeah, you highlighted that one before, so Ruler and Missing are going to get that one, and that's a much harder bot lane matchup to crack on the side of LGD. What do you pick into that? Do you feel confident enough to pick out another Blitzcrank into any sort of lanes, or really was it the Meteor which made it much easier to pull off that combo beforehand?
And now it's about looking at how much pressure they can kind of dissuade on this bottom side with that lovers duo there. And now with the Gnar on the other side as an answer into the Cassante, we are looking at honing down. First and foremost, the bot lane is going to be the focus for JDG, but it's definitely these solo lanes and specifically this mid lane for LGD as they ban away the Annie.
I think the Annie was the easy takeaway. Knight, probably the best player of that in the world. Very, very clutch on that in very important team fight moments. So you still have the likes of Ahri available. You could lock that in, even despite the Wukong and the Vi, which are two of the primary pairings being taken away. That's been bad away as well. So now you're looking back towards a couple of... You don't really have a champion now that's going to be hyper mobile and safe, and then also get priority. You're going to have to choose safety or priority, one of the two. Against something like that, Nico, going to have to really see what Knight thinks about that matchup, see if there's anything you can really abuse that Nico in the mid lane with.
I expect there's some answers here for sure, as would love to see kind of the aspect of Knight come through on this one. I think he had such a blow up in MSI. Finally, the Knight that was promised coming through. But we actually get the Ezreal that was not promised coming into this one as LGD look all last, but it is the Ezreal locked in.
Okay, so Ezreal has a number of different builds you can... I mean, it's Ezreal. You always have builds that you can go, but definitely been seeing... there's a notable Ezreal main on the US server called Dragdar that's been posting a lot about how Ezreal is in a very good spot right now, and there are a lot of very cool combos you can pull out with this one. It did feel like in spring, Ezreal was one of those champions which... If you made one mistake, a champion like a Jinx or an Aphelios would just take over the game. A champion like Ezreal, though, in the current iteration, has a lot of ability to play very early lanes very well. He's one of the strongest level 1 and 2 champions in the game. And then also with the current itemization, have a lot of flexibility later into the game to deal with many types of team compositions.
Well, we got our team composition set for JDG. At least they got the Syndra for Knight. And they got the Sejuani for Kanavi, so a lot of facilitation possible, but honestly, a lot of late game looks for JDG at this point. We'll see the Karma locked in last for LGD.
Classic bot. This is a really classic bot lane matchup. In fact, Ruler, back when he earned his skill on his skin on this champion, the Zyra Khan versus the Ezreal Karma, that was one of the biggest matchups of the era. Very strong level 1 lane from LPC and JinJiao. And as soon as you get to the point where you get something like a Mikhail's coming in from that support, you're really starting to struggle as JDG to close down something like this Ezreal. I almost wonder if LPC is in a really good spot to have another great carry performance. JDG, they cannot afford to let this Ezreal get a lot of gold, because given this composition, there isn't a lot which can get to him if that initial engage fails.
And while I do think JDG are opting into their style by saying, we're going to make it to the late game and then you're going to pay, that is an opt-in for them. And I think it is a tried and true direction. But after that first game, right, I was kind of wondering if JDG were just going to try to come out swinging. But it looks like they're going to go tried and true. We have a bar of execution that is needed for LGD, but they have gotten a lot of the pieces they need to set up for success. And again, this is a roster that has been so close to finding their first series win of Summer's Play. If they did it against JDG, oh my God. What a way, what a world, and what a future for LGD as they are going to have to scrap it out. They're going to have to try to finish out this second game. You do not want to give those mistakes over to JDG as we're going to be loading into game number 2 now. We'll get those Jios ringing in JDG's home arena.
JDG needing those chances a little more than they did at the start of this series before that point. Now staring down what potentially could be a 2-0. They lost that first game, and honestly, given these team compositions coming into this one, gonna have to rack their brains a little bit about how to deal with LPC's Ezreal, particularly with Triforce being such an incredibly strong item right now. If you're an AD carry which can use it, definitely worth picking that one up, and can be your route to success, particularly when they change the passive of the kind of the stacking AD and move speed from 3-second duration to 5 seconds. Trying to disengage from a champion in a team fight in a laning phase, very difficult to do so. On top of the fact that Ezreal has always been a soft counter to Xayah because you outrange her auto attack range with your Q and she can't always get the best combo onto you. LPC, again, eyes on this Ezreal, despite him being against Ruler, has a good route in this game.
Indeed, and Meteor going to set the tempo towards bottom side. He's going for an invade, try to get some vertical jungling going against Kanavi here potentially, or maybe just an early wraparound on the Mysticat Ruler. That will be the focus for LGD this game, absolutely. And it's just about putting the pieces in the right place.
Question is, what can you do with this bot side focus from Meteor? If you get a wave bounce back on a good timing from Ruler and Missing, and you don't eat a two-person mantra Q that Soul Flat, you can maybe get the wave to...
Man.
This is so awkward now,
mind.
No, but this is so awkward because what Missing and Ruler were looking to do was get a good bounce back of the wave to make sure that the wave could be closer to their turret at a kind of timing where Meteor will be looking towards them. They failed to push that wave in completely. They eat a double Karma Q just as they come back from it, so they take some poke, and now the wave is going to be in an awkward spot. They're going to get out XP'd. You see that level 2 hit from the Ezreal Karma already, and they're not going to be able to respond to the first plays of the game should they start happening in LGD's favor.
I actually did not see a single ping come out from LGD around there. I think Kanavi was in vision at that last second, but I don't know if anybody saw him. He will get that response on the top side as Meteor has gone back to his side. Again, this vertical jungling starting to take place here. And just there's a constant pressure from JinJiao. And I got to ask really quick on this bottom side matchup, especially the Karma coming into this. Not something we've seen necessarily prevalent, but I was honestly hoping for something with like a little bit of engage potential, but right now it's just oppressive.
I mean, do you need engage if Ezreal hits skill shots? That's the thing. With a champion like Ezreal, you don't always need to pin someone in place. It's very dependent on the skill of your Ezreal. So LPC, again, a lot of importance on him.
Oh, congratulations tonight for 500 games in the LPL. Huge stuff.
It's a heck of a milestone. Would really liked it not to be an upset victory for LGD that he claims that accolade in. But again, we're seeing Ruler stuck at level 1. Double buffs on Meteor. Ruler, he can't walk up to this. No one's coming down to help them either.
They got Kanavi. He's coming up the wave. He's coming up the lane. He's just a slow Poro, okay? He's just got to walk his way there. LPC doesn't really have an exit strategy here. He did end up burning that heal, didn't have to burn the flash, and it's a little bit finicky on the bottom side. Okay,
Kanavi actually did make it in time. I was wondering if LGD could pull the trigger, maybe blow the flash on Ruler just for that point. So heal for Ignite traded, but LPC was going to recall anyway, so the chunk in the HP doesn't really lead to anything beyond that point. LPC gets himself that tier, gets himself a longsword. It's not like Ruler has himself an item advantage beyond that point, at least at this point anyway. LGD feels like mission accomplished from the first few waves. Ruler once again put in an awkward spot in early game.
It's 2 games in a row now, and it's just LGD realizing where their
can't
point of pressure needs to be. They can't keep getting away with it over and over again.
They absolutely could. It's really difficult to just retrain stuff that you've gotten used to after all this time. It was like when Zoe came into the mid lane meta, which was one of my least favorite times in League. I was not a fan of that one. You had to realize that using an offensive summoner against Zoe gave her more damage too, which was really annoying to get used to. We kind of got used to a little bit more after this point, but similar kind of thing, counting your minions, making sure you have eyes on Nico if at all possible. It's just so hard to train that overnight.
It really is. Now, actually, we see JinJiao in a little wrap around here. Try to get as much damage on Ruler as possible. Actually, going to connect the chain. Just try to hit the damage down as well. The mantra Q. And they are pressed so far into the tower. They are already down so heavily in CS. Kanavi, he's got to pull the escape rope here. He's got to find something for this bottom lane to stand on.
Misses the knockup as well. Don't lead to anything, but LGD, this Ezreal Karma has always been one of the most dominant bot lane CVTs that we know in League history. It's always cropped up from time to time. Seeing it again against the Ezreal, seeing against the Zyra Khan. In a very important game for LGD. What an upset it would be for them. Gives them that early game pressure, gives them the ability to go towards this first dragon as well. So Meteor is going to pick up that objective for the team. LGD, again, really have to stress how much of a unexpected performance this has come out of them, but they are really earning these early game victories for themselves.
And you have to give so much credit to the prep and the strategies coming into this one. I think it's just been incredible to see, especially where LGD have had so many question marks in their 3 series losses already in the split, where it's just like, where is the front line going to come from? Where's the initiation? Who's going to be the shot caller? But they've found a strategy here against JDG that's working out for them. Kanavi will continuously hover down here now, though, with all this pressure, trying to help out Ruler. With that dragon, though, Meteor is setting that pace on the neutral objective.
You'll notice though at the top of the screen, once again, much like that last game, the gold is not really reflecting what we consider to be quite a strong lead at this point. Meteor does find Kanavi in the jungle, probably going to just queue over that wall, so will do safely. However, Haichao has a move towards this bot side, has flash, has ult. Ruler does not have ult, very importantly. This could be a game-turning play if LGD choose to pull the trigger.
Knight's coming down. They do land more damage on the Kanavi. Missing, just try to dodge out. Knight is here. They need to know. Okay, now they know he's there. They're going to turn around. LPC can't really get to the fight over here, but he's going to crash this big wave and just trying to pick off Kanavi as he can get him. That's the auto attack of first blood for LPC. They're going to find more. Oh my goodness. It's tragedy struck again for JDG. Knight should clean this one up with the power at least. Does he get cleaned up too? He's got the minions. They are blocking. JinJiao's trying to chase him down with the Root Hill Flash to make sure he can connect it. LPC doesn't have the damage just yet, though. And Knight is the lone survivor of what has wrought in bot lane.
But once again, the big loser of this play is Ruler. Ruler is sat 2 levels down behind LPC. LGD, they have come in with a strategy, and that is make Ruler's life hell. He doesn't have nearly enough XP or HP to outplay this. Haichao probably didn't even need to pull that ultimate at that point. Takes one too many tower shots. This could have been a very clean 3 for none. I understand the need to. I understand going forwards with that ult. In retrospect, it's a lot easier to tell at that juncture. But still, LGD walking away with multiple kills, walking away with taking summoners away from JDG, coming back with items in inventory too. LGD really starting to make things hurt around the bot side of the map from JDG.
Yeah. And what I love so much about this strategy, and you know, this is me reading way too much into it, but last year, LPC was the understudy of JDG, right? He was the LDL talent with JDG's roster. And I especially love that he gets over to LGD this year when Ruler comes over to JDG. He's like, you know what? I'm going to show up against this guy. I'm going to say, you should have promoted me. But no, it is Ruler, and he's going to have a lot to say back.
I have missed story time with Mazel. It was one of my favorite pastimes in spring. Glad to have that one back. Get that one on audiobook. Kanavi was spotted around this bot side. It's one of the few times that JDG have had a chance to push in this bot side. Pulled.
That's a big combo with that charm as well in LPC. You might have the ulti, but Ruler wants to clap back a little bit here. What auto attack from Kanavi. That'll be a double kill for the jungler of JDG.
Oh man, LGD, they can't get out from under that turret. Important kills back. You do end up blowing a lot of ults for it on JDG, but just as we were saying, LGD hurting the bot side of JDG. The gold gets a little bit more in track at that point. Ruler managing to claw something back. Much needed at this point. JDG finally getting something going for themselves.
And that's the comp that they've kind of drafted for themselves. Just bear the brunt of this early game and try to make it to those late games we know them for. But this needed to happen. This was an emergency escape coming through for JDG, and they actually were able to get something out of it. While the gold didn't go to Ruler, still big.
LPC played that about as well as you can, buffering through the CC with his ultimate. So at least, like, if you're CC'd, you're still trapped in your animation. You're not really wasting any time. But at that point, it's kind of a done and dusted. You don't have the items just yet. Later into the game, we'll see if you can do something similar. But for now, not to be. 369 pulled that ultimate top side. He's doing well on this K'Sante matchup. Have to keep an eye on him. I do think if there's anyone that can chase down the Ezreal, it probably is the K'Sante with a million dashes. One Arcane Shift is not normally enough to see you to safety. And with him getting advantage, that could be JDG's answer to late game Ezreal team fights.
He's trying to get every single possible advantage you can before, you know, LGD is going to force the hand, right? Last game, they had so much control around the Dragons. We're actually getting a little bit of picture-in-picture of the ulti trades in top side of the map. But they had so much control. We were, you know, lauding them for their vision early on, but especially around those early stacking Dragons. And now they have the Rift Herald, but they're also posturing very heavily, trying to get this vision down around this bottom side.
Well, Dragon is spawning the next 10 seconds. That would be 2 Dragons for LGD if they were to claim that one. JDG would not really want to give that one away for free. Meteor has that Herald, though, that can draw the eye of JDG somewhere else if they so wish. They threw it down mid lane a couple of times in game 1, or at least the one Herald that they did. They threw it in towards that mid lane turret with plates currently available. It'd be very important to get that tower a little lower, particularly because once laning phase and bot side ends, you do tend to go towards that mid lane siege.
Meteor, Hot Blossom onto 2, and that could be it. Meteor gets it onto Knight. Kanavi missing that initial engage spelled doom for the JDG mid laner.
Knight still didn't have flash from earlier plays at that point. LGD find themselves a bit of a play out of nowhere. Wouldn't have thought JDG would have committed to that quite so hard, especially with Meteor having the Herald in pocket. You lose a play like that, it leads to that Herald being much easier dropped elsewhere, and as you can see, it's heading towards the bot side. More gold to the Ezreal.
Yeah, they could just take this tower if they get a little bit more damage onto it. But that charge could be huge. They don't have the minion wave, sadly,
teleport
though.
behind. They're highlighting that. There it is. Here comes 369. Oh, rather, that's Knight.
That's an early charm, though. The quickness is so big, and LPC's just down. That is big damage, but a double TP in response from LGD. They lose all the pressure around the map, and that's a heck of a trigger pull.
That was, because that could have been a huge play for LGD in regards to getting plates and that first turret bonus onto the Ezreal. They managed to once again shut down LPC at an important point in time. He does get himself that Triforce on that death, but LGD fall prey to one of those teleports coming behind. Of course, it's there were some changes to Unleash Teleport. You can use it from 10 minutes now rather than 14 minutes. The extra timing window working in JDG's advantage.
It helps out. The little things, right? It's the little things. Meteor has completed some little things into a big thing. A Divine Sunder, at least.
I have heard that is... Wait, I mean, like, I don't quite understand how all of the components really... I'm not sure how, like, for instance, 2 sticks form a hat for Rabadons.
True.
That, to me, feels a little bit alien.
Because they're needlessly large. You have a lot of extra space.
But how does that work into coverable headwear?
I don't ask how the world works. I just watch it turn. All right?
It's like... what was the quote?
Bliss.
Like, it's like if people knew how laws were made and sausages were made, people wouldn't sleep at night. Famous quote from something.
There's a few things I know in this
sometimes
world.
I'm like, you know what? This processed food I'm eating, I'm happier not knowing where it comes from. I enjoy the taste too much.
Ooh, we got a 1v1 action to the top side.
Here we go.
369's looking for the solo onto fearness. He's going to find it with that all out, but the nice knockback with the Meganar ulti. And here comes Meteor to be a little bit of a safety net for fearness.
369 gonna regen up though during that time, so fearness still has to sit there. And look at 369 clearing that wave. Actually, looks like he's gonna be able to get himself a bit of those healing plants towards bot side. So, while all this was happening, second dragon was ignored in the favor of more gold, which kind of makes sense when you're trying to get some key gold onto key carries like this Ezreal we've been highlighting over and over. But what that does mean is JDG manages to claim that second dragon, and the Infernal Rift comes into fruition.
And I'm just starting to have some, you know, foreshadowing worry that we are getting to where JDG's bread and butter is with this composition. It's still a while off, right? But they have so much stability when it comes to 5-on-5s. And it's not like LGD have that same advantage they had last time. They're actually in a gold deficit because of the way that some of these solo lanes are going, particularly top lane. So it is starting to raise some question marks, maybe some question mark pings for LGD. But if they can tie this composition together and continue to get a lot of cohesion between Haichao and Meteor, that's going to be big. And speaking of cohesion, they need it right here.
So we've changed our lane allocations a little bit. Mid lane has gone towards bot lane. And these 80 carries, the support's heading towards this mid lane. Of course, that's one of the really important things that Ezreal was always very good at, sieging in that mid lane, safely wave clearing or poking under turret. But if Kanavi finds a route into one of those side lanes, of course, it's more about your supports roaming to that play, and that's where the Rakan has a bit more of that advantage, especially with Flash and the ult available.
And I'm starting to wonder the exact game plan for LGD's team composition when it comes to those 5-on-5s that we're kind of foreshadowing to, because they're going to need a very heavy front-to-back damage source, or I guess they're going to have one in LPC, but not necessarily kind of that pick potential. So is there a world where you see them winning just a straight-on front-to-back 5-on-5?
The 5v5, it's all LPC, baby. It has to be this Ezreal hitting like 2-3 items and going crazy. I mean, Ezreal in his current state is very strong, especially with the Trinity Force buffs and the like. Can see a lot of damage coming out of this character, but I think for me, it's more about how LGD thinks about their ranges, because if you're going into the Syndra and the Xayah, they're very good anti-dive champions. If you go too deep on that Wukong, there's a chance that you lose Meteor for free. Knight, they're going to spot that Meteor in that brush at that point. LPC trying to siege out once again. Second Herald has spawned. Kanavi pulls the ult.
Oh, they found the flank with Kanavi. Big Glacial Prison. They've already taken out JinJiao now. There's another TP from fearness, but here comes 369. It's the double flank, and they're on to 4 members with the all. No! Oh, he doesn't go over the wall. LPC will flash away, and now LGD are looking for this front to back. Meteor tries to go in, tries to get the true shot barrage across, but LPC will go a little bit wide with that one.
Holy moly. So, JinJiao caught out of position. Karma has forever been the first target of these engages because she's easy to kill, even if she makes other people harder to kill in her own stead. And of course, that was a little bit what we saw about the worries we have of Ezreal versus a champion like Kasante. Often, something like your Arcane Shift is not enough to see you to safety. Has to use that flash, but not have that flash available for that next engagement. Was in a bit of an awkward position. Pushes up in that mid lane, but the play doesn't happen in the mid lane. LPC has to reposition himself, and now Knight's actually the one caught out.
They're catching out Knight. Haichao flashes for that pop blossom, and here comes Meteor to slam down the big old stick. Meteor gets that kill, and Knight gets caught in the side lane. They should be able to push this side tier 3 at least.
Okay, so outer turret likely going down, as you were saying. Have to see if this leads to something like that Herald as well. It's a lot of time spent, though, to take it to power. Also take that second Herald. See if JDG can use that time that LGD would to use if they went towards that. To make some big macro moves elsewhere. As we currently see JDG pushing in towards this mid lane, it is that push of war, or tug of war rather, between these 280 carries, trying to chip down these mid lane outer turrets.
Man, I'm just looking at 369's health bar, and I'm like, how do you kill this man? You're going to need every single weapon in the arsenal here.
Mazel with difficulty.
Yeah. Not as hard to kill, though, will be the Rift Herald. This is another Rift Herald going down, but JDG this time trying to use this in the mid lane, I'm sure, break down that outer tower, get ready for this dragon fight in 50 seconds.
I think with the Nico ult down, being on red side, taking Herald as well, kind of difficult if you get pinned into that pit. LGD didn't have the time to take that top lane outer turret, and also the Heralds, they take that outer turret on that top side. Herald does go over to JDG. Maybe they can use that to break open this mid lane outer tower, though, which has been what Ruler has been working on for the last few minutes.
All right, you got the Muramana completed for LPC, so 2 item spike with that Trinity Force for the Ezreal. They'll, waiting for that build to really come online, but not a bad spike.
You know the Manamune and the Muramana, they're a reference to like a Japanese myth about 2 swordsmen, 2 master people who made swords, swordsmiths. A lot of people didn't realize that. There's Muramana and Muramasa, and the other guy I actually can't remember the name of. Anyway, reference to that. Got a big sword to bring to this one, though. 2 items has always been Ezreal's bread and butter. How much damage can LPC do, though? Big test for the Ezreal.
Was not a lot from that true shot barrage. The Rift Herald is going to be used as a distractionary tool in mid lane for JDG so they can position around this fight. And I just love that we're getting a 5-on-5 here. Meganar early from fearness. He is completely caught out. And LGD, now Meteor's caught out too. He's going to have to be careful one by one. The dominoes are starting to fall. And it's just the decisiveness from JDG that makes the difference. And they also catch out JinJiao. Ruler has come alive in this game number 2.
Knight gets a couple of stuns. LGD can't position correctly. Ruler has to force the ult, but it's not enough to see him go down.
Big knockback from Knight, buying a lot of time. LPC gonna burn that heal, but he comes all the same at 369. Picks out LPC. Big pop blossom, but it's not gonna be enough today. Scat of the week from Knight, and that's a full-on ace from JDG.
And suddenly, out of nowhere, JDG spring into life. LGD might have had themselves an angle if they could have arranged their team fight a little better, but fearness just caught out in the middle of nowhere. LGD, they need to escape the initial engage, and LPC needs to be in range to do damage. Well, they don't escape the initial engage onto one of their targets, and regardless, Ezreal's not there to do damage. Why are LGD positioning so aggressively when their one true source of damage isn't in position? I can't tell you the answer to that one, but it really doesn't work out for them in this fight. And again, wants to see LPC using that arcane shift. JDG knows go time as well. They can focus onto that Ezreal if they so wish. Gives them the green light to continue the siege.
And this is the JDG that we were so fearful of going into game 1 that we never saw, right? They just pick apart team fights. They pull it out of a rabbit, or rabbit out of the hat rather, and able to find a lot of those strengths through that decisive pick making.
Another pick. And
through Kanavi's Glacial Prisons, who he's taking a 1v4 now. A little bit of help from Missing, so 2v4. But it's still a lot of pressure subsided from JDG.
And it is. Now LGD are just really hoping that somehow this game gets extended to 3 items where LPC gets a Cyrilda's Grudge. I don't think there's any other way you're killing those tanks at this point. If you're ahead of the game, maybe you can rely on that second item. As it stands though,
369 wants the 2v1, baby.
And he's taking it. He's very happy to do so. Haichao might have an angle in mid lane. The Ruler's already safely off to top side of the map, and he won't find anything there either.
JDG is so scary, but 369 is such a giga chat right now on this Cassante. It made it through. It wasn't banned. And I think LGD might be rethinking that one. Haichao trying to make it away from Kanavi, who's also very tanky himself. And they're just trying to stop this siege of a tier 2 tower in topside.
Trying their best, but it's not like LGD are getting anything elsewhere. They often, when you're kind of withstanding a siege somewhere, you want to cross map, even if it is just to some degree, killing a wave somewhere so your opponent doesn't pick up a wave as it dies to tower. Not even the case there. LGD just starting to bleed out very, very slowly. They don't have the damage right now to force fights, and JDG know it.
4,000 gold in the lead is JDG. They will not get that tier 2 in top, and Knight has stuck around and stacking up the Qs. Does get the knockback, Meteor. Just be a little bit more careful. And JDG got a reset on majority of members coming back on the map, try to get this vision back out there.
Well, that vision, it's last game, you had that vision for the Blitzcrank and for the burst combos coming out for LGD. Honestly, vision at this point for LGD is, this might stop us from dying. It's very, very different, kind of the emphasis on what that vision is there for. Not that it makes it any less important, it's just a very different kind of thing, because that vision stops you getting picked up like that.
There's that decisiveness yet again, and I was questioning the Karma early on. It gets picked out yet again. LPC finally shows up. Pop Blossom's going to go way wide as Missing actually goes down. LPC will get that phase shift out of there, trying to get a re-engage as Kanavi. 369 is the scary member. They do get some good poke on a Kanavi. It's mid lane that JDG want.
Well, 369 once again happy to take a 1vx scenario. Says, okay, fine, I'll just stand here. Try and fight me if you can. At least LGD get 1 kill back, and that kill does go over to, I believe it went over to LPC. Would have been very important to do so at that point. 369 still has flash, still has ult. Could potentially shut down Haichao here.
Knight's coming around the corner too. These are two that you never want to see when you're all by your lonesome. I'm gonna get away from this one. I try to play as a ward. Can't do it though. Haichao, you get all outed, and Kanavi gets the kill.
Sneaky, but not sneaky enough. Got further than I gave him credit for, at least. But not nearly the same level of Nico destruction that we've seen in earlier games and earlier even in the day. Teleports back in. It's that Baron which you can't let go down. But JinJiao, this Karma is absolute paper tonight on the Syndra.
Meteor's nowhere nearby to even have a say in this contest. That's Baron gone. Kanavi, he wants it!
Not again!
Guess who he finds? It's JinJiao again! LPC's by himself against Ruler. Ruler takes him out of the fight, takes him out of the game, and so too falls LGD 1 by 1.
That is unceremonious. I don't know what JinJiao's done in a past life, but his Karma is looking pretty bad right now in multiple senses of the word. 0 and 5 taken down with extreme prejudice from Kanavi. Knight dies and then goes, huh, Medjay sounds like a good idea. A bit of a victory lap in that one. JDG really putting LGD to the sword.
The 369 just gonna chase down Haichao here, who's not having a good game too either. And the duo of Ruler and 369 find a lot of pressure even after that fight. That means Kanavi, the king of the picks so far, sets the tempo of this one.
But this one is really threading the needle in just the most, like, painful way. Just slides around fearness and goes, yes, my true target, the support I've been killing the whole game. JinJiao is just not able to play League of Legends. While all this is happening, it means that, hang on, that is a clutch ult from Ruler. I mean, he dove solo into the backline to kill his own target, gets away with a slick disengage after that point. JDG might have been half asleep in game one. They are well and truly awake as they put JinJiao to rest one more time.
Not again. Not like this.
Oh, make it stop.
So I'll just say, you know, Karma comes very quickly. Not just the champion, because JinJiao on that Blitzcrank last game, I think he built up a lot of bad karma with JDG. They just came knocking.
Like, this guy must have been a Poro hunter or something like that in a previous life, because this Sejuani with that skin is really taking him to issue over that one. The JDG marching in towards the base, still have the last of their Baron buff, still have ultimates available should they wish.
And this is the JDG that was promised, that we've seen throughout this early split, even though they do have that one loss. We'll see Haichao with a nice fight back. He's still got a decent amount of damage coming out from Meteor, and JDG is punished as they overextended in their advantage here, trying to burst down those Nexus towers.
Let's see, I mean, Knight and Ruler are still alive, so it doesn't really change what you can do on the map from LGD. There's a lot of damage ready and waiting should you over-engage somewhere on the map, and as you can see, Knight hiding around the corner using the vision. If anyone gets caught out by Knight, they are 100-0'd completely.
As a stopwatch just purchased for Meteor, at least, you know, maybe a little bit of saving grace there, but we're truly looking at those 3-item spikes being so monumental for JDG now, and it just gives them all the power in the world to move forward, where we know if they have that power, it just looks so deadly. And while LGD, again, reminiscing on game number 1 a little bit, looked so good in that first game, it just felt like JDG didn't ever really wake up for the fight, and now they definitely woke up.
And like by the time they kind of realized they were in a very bad spot, the damage had already been done. Kanavi,
exactly.
Like, buddy, at some point you're gonna have to answer for your crimes against Support Nation, because JinJiao, like, he's leveling a complaint after this one. This one's cyberbullying.
Gosh, it is actually so dirty, and he just, again, has so much health, it doesn't matter. He just can walk up. Even Knight is playing so big. LPC is already out of the fight as Ruler's got the true focus. He's got a tier 2 tower now. fearness getting engaged on Grand Entrance will not actually connect there. There's a couple tools utilized by JDG, means they back away.
They escape with their lives for now. That was that close to reaching that ultimate threshold execution from Syndra. When you get up to those 100 stacks, you get that. You get half a death cap when you get 120. Knight has that anyway. So powerful on the Syndra. LPC very lucky to get away with his life.
Again, JDG overextended last time they were in this kind of position, but they're just looking to take down the last tower and bottom side at least, and try to get another inhib open, as now it's fearness stacking up the Meganar. Wondering if they can pull the trigger on something and catch out at least JDG with something. Okay. LPC gonna stop the backs. No, you don't get that quick back. But we do actually want to see now renewed pressure from JDG as they have TPs available. They can utilize that so well, and here it comes.
So this half health turret, fearness goes in.
fearness not going to get the engage he wanted. Here comes Meteor, another domino to the party. He got a backline access from Haichao, but one by one they fall just like they were planned to. JDG wiped the floor with LGD, and there's only one last hope. It's LPC, and you're not getting out of this one. The Ezreal had come through for game 2, and we're right back to JDG's home court advantage.
Valiant attempts by fearness to try and buck the engage by JDG, but they're the ones who are thrown from the saddle. Nexus falls, going to a game 3, and as it always happens in best of 3s, if you don't have the gas in the tank to go the distance beyond one specialized draft, you are going to have issues. JDG have woken up, and they're here to play.
They absolutely are, and Ruler was upsetty spaghetti about that first game. He's like, I just never even got to play my video game. There was something wrong with it. It was a blitzcrank. But in the second game, even with all that pressure down bottom lane, that is why JDG approached with this kind of composition, because they knew that if they didn't have that kind of aggressive bottom lane focus, they played a little bit more reserved, they would make it to the mountaintop there in that late game where we know they thrive.
Yeah. And on the other side, couple of recurring issues from LGD kind of rearing their head again, where there are some imprecision in some of the ways that they play around their mid games, and sometimes that crops up a little earlier too. In this game, you got to have your eyes on JinJiao. Karma has a very different kind of skill set compared to a lot of other different champions, because you don't have, well, I guess it kind of applies to a lot of different enchanters, sure, but Karma, because she is so squishy and has a lot of ability to just get picked off like that, you cannot afford to get picked off even when you were ahead. That's what we saw even when you joined up with a buddy as well to go warding. It wasn't enough. And Kanavi, stunning game on that Sejuani to really just zero down those targets, get on top of that Karma again and again, and not allow LGD to sit with their battle lines solid and to get those heals and shields rolling through.
And I think that's also something, is when we do see these kind of enchanter supports, it is majorly healing enchanter supports, and so you do have a lot more of that sustainability, where Karma is just outright aggression in a lot of factors, but also some shields. And I think you get to see a lot of the laning advantage that it had early on. We got to see a lot of oppression. JinJiao was doing really well, especially like, from that level 2. But it just, you have to put it together for a composition late game against JDG.
Well, there's a point where, like, you put your 3 levels into Q you do for laning phase, and you feel on top of the world. Awesome. I poked them out. I'm 2 levels up. This is wonderful. We should do this more often. Why can't we draft this more often? And then, like, you get beyond that point, and then my heart goes on because it's left my body. It's actually just been ripped out by the enemy jungler. Because your laning phase is not the entire game. And if you're lucky enough to like end the game through laning phase, sure, awesome. But when you're at this professional league like level of play, you have to stick the landing. You have to go towards that mid game. And JinJiao was caught out way too many times to allow LGD to play this slower back to front comp with the range advantage of the Ezreal.
And I remember there was a moment in the cast where I was like, I really wish Knight would get involved. He didn't have the most incredible, like, standout, oh my god, Knight is this man. But the fact that he was doing his job in the way that he did, but also most damage, a ton of setup on the Scout of the Weeks, and, you know, not too shabby of stats either on the back end of it. I feel like it was kind of that subtle grace from JDG.
There was that one almost 100-0 onto LPC, but Knight on the whole, like, it felt like Knight was doing a lot of damage amongst the chaos, which you could kind of melded into everything, but he was consistently doing damage. And again, it's Knight Syndra. This guy is so iconic at that champion. It's a pleasure to see it on the stage again. They targeted his champion pool a lot, but he always has another iconic champion in the pocket.
Well, LGD are always just so close to finishing out their series every time, but they will go the distance yet again as JDG have roared to life and smacked them down in game 2. We're going to take a little break, and while we do, go get some rest, some relaxation,